giving you even more commands and even more stories from the trenches of Sean's battle days.
All right, bye.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the DevOps Roundup podcast. Today we're going to be covering 15, 10 from me, 5 from Sean, different Git commands that you should know that are going to help you be 95% of the way of knowing everything you could possibly need to be effective with Git. Maybe that last part is a stretch, but these 15 commands are definitely going to help you out. And according to ChatGPT, it's going to give you the 95% of the solution for everything you need to know. So let's jump into it. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and let's go. Hey, Sean, welcome to another
Hey,
episode.
Alex.
All right, so we're going to cover 15 commands, which I'm actually kind of excited for because Git is one of those like scary tools where you kind of need to know what you're doing, but you kind of don't, but you kind of do, but you kind of should.
You
Because
should.
that can happen really, really quickly.
And it's also different enough if you have experience with another version control tool. And, this was more relevant 10, 20 years ago, or 10, 15 years ago. Git's not 20 years old yet, but it's approaching it. That Git does things different enough that it actually hurts you coming from a previous tool. If you're brand new to Git and brand new to version control, then Git doesn't have that much of a learning curve. If you're coming from an older legacy tool like Subversion or other ones I won't bother to name, then it makes it more difficult.
Yeah. And the setup is also very interesting. So the very first command we're going to go over, and I actually don't know what's the best way to do this. I think I would want to.
I will go in post edit and put the commands down
All right.
here.
Because I was gonna put it in the chat and then see if we can show it. No, I can't show it here. Okay.
No, I'll put it in post production.
All right. So the very first one is going to be git config -- global user.name and then your name. Now this command is important because this is going to be the username that is going to be included in your commits. Now a little pro tip, something that I've learned over the years, especially this is especially true when respect to GitHub. That is, use a good name. I was working with a client recently, and people put like usually you create like I would have created my GitHub way back in maybe later end of 09, maybe 2010. So I've had my account for 15 years, right? Had I been the child person that I was 15 years ago, it would have been a very inappropriate thing. But I was looking at somebody's GitHub recently, and I'm like, who the heck is this? And I asked the CEO, I'm like, why? Like, is this like a real person? And they're like, yeah, because this particular CEO wants his developers to get public credit for the work that they do. He allows them to use their personal Git account. But that username that you have on your public Git account might not be your name, right? It could be a lot of stuff. And I've actually seen it in 2 different places. I worked at a startup too, where everybody had these very over the top names. And it's hard when you're in Jira and then you're signing work or you're looking at the PRs and you're like, who the heck is this?
Yeah. So, so the git config command is pretty much local to your device.
Even though this is global, but local.
Yeah, it says global, but it's pretty much just to where you log in. That's slightly different than the.
It is, but I was just saying pick a name because I was using the GitHub as an example because you can use there's no limits, right? That you can put whatever you want under your name.
Yeah, there is no limits. If you're in a professional environment, you're going to want to follow whatever standards they use, and that's usually your real name and your corporate email address. But if you're doing this as a hobby, there's no rules.
So just be careful because this might come and bite you in the butt.
Yeah, don't use something that would embarrass you or others if you ever needed to share code with somebody else. That being said, you can change this after the fly. It's not set in stone. You can redo your config. And then from there, it won't change history of the code that you've done to that point. But anything new will have the new configs.
Yeah. All right. Next command is going to be git config -- global. Well, very similar command to the first
Yeah,
one.
I
But
would
this
argue this is the same command,
well,
and
this time you're doing your email. So it's going to be user.email, and then you're going to put your specific email. Again, here, don't be putting, your Hotmail or your AOL emails. Put something relevant. Put something more, 2025.
so yeah, I these are the only two settings you absolutely must configure before you start using Git. There's a number of other configs that Git config will let you change, but these are the only two that actually matter. So if you didn't do this step, I call it one step, but our friend ChatGPT is calling it two steps.
Well, it's
But
two commands, right? You enter one command with one set of information, then you do another command. And we didn't say how to set up Git in 5 easy steps, but we said 15 commands.
commands,
You should know.
I don't know. I'm still on the fence on this. This is the same command, but yes, you do have to enter it twice. I do not believe you could string this into one command.
There you go. See, now the internet knows what they're talking about. The hater's gonna hate. All right. So once you set those up, right, Git kind of knows who you are.
Mhm.
Doesn't know why you are or what you are, but it knows who you are.
And it doesn't validate who you are.
Yes.
You're telling Git who you are.
As we just, we use our little anecdotes about those silly little names.
Yeah.
And so this, I would say that's easy step, right? That's those are the two easy commands, because what happens next, we basically jump straight into hard mode. All right. And so the next command that you should know, and this is with respect to starting and cloning, you're going to want to do a git init.
So
now
you want to learn how to use Git init if you're creating a new repository. If you're joining another repository, Git init doesn't come into play. But if you have code that you need to contribute to, to a Git repository, then that's where you use Git init.
Yeah, so this is one of those things very similar to the first two commands. Sometimes you're going to use it, and sometimes you're going to do it at the very, very beginning. Most of the time, though, unless you're, again, starting a new repository from scratch, you're most likely going to use our fourth command, which is git clone, and then the URL to the repo, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to be in one of two camps. You're either starting something completely fresh because maybe you're starting a brand new project, or you got hired onto a team. Yeah, you're joining, you're hiring, contracting, whatever the case may be, but you're working off of an existing code base. Yes. At which point, again, you're going to want to use git clone and then the URL to your repository.
So the git clone will take an existing repository and copy it down to your local space.
And this is usually where GitHub and GitLab and Bitbucket all come into play, right?
This is usually where you start interacting with GitHub and Bitbucket, or GitLab.
All right. So again, easy stuff. Get a little bit harder. Commands. The following commands are just going to be things that you should know.
These you'd probably use almost a daily basis.
Yeah. I don't think that they're super critical, but they're going to give you context, because in the world of Git, it's very command line driven, right? So unless your company's paying for extra third-party tools or some sort of an enhancement to visually see what's going on with your repo, these commands are going to help you kind of understand some stuff. And we're going to start with the number 5 here, which is git status. This shows the current state of your working directory and staging area. The command is important, git status. Knowing how to read it, 1,000 times more important.
Also very, very important, yes. Also understanding the different flags that you can give git status to refine refine that output that it's going to give you.
Now, this next one, I kind of never quite understood. But apparently, my understanding of how this works is you come up with a new file, an index.html or something, right? Maybe you have a new CSS file, and you make this file in the folder, in an actual folder on your machine.
That is a repo.
Right. That is where your code is at, a repo, right? But when you add a new file, the repository doesn't necessarily recognize or understand or digest that the file needs to be in the repo. It's in the same folder, but it's not registered yet. And so this next command is going to be git add and then the name of your file.
So basically that just registers it with Git. So you can have registered and unregistered files in your repo. And that's important because just because you have a file in there doesn't necessarily mean you want it to be version controlled. It could be an output file from a build. So if you did like pick your favorite build tool, a Maven or Gradle script, and it's going to create things like .os and .lib files that you may not necessarily want to have that as part of your repository. So unless you do a git add on that, it's not going to do it. However, you only need to do it once per file. Once you add your index.html, it's there until you remove it. And I'm hoping that the remove command is not one of the 15 that we're going to go over, because being a CM person by trade, you always want to add, and very rarely do you want to remove.
Yeah, worry not. In spoilers, it's not. All right, moving on to command number 7, and this is one that I use a lot. I'm using this one 1,000 times a day.
This is probably the most often used command inside Git.
Yeah, and this is the important part, right? Because I feel like without this command number 7, you might as well not even be using a source code repository, because you gotta. I was looking at my phone. I'm backing up my phone right now, and I was like, man, when's the last time I backed up my phone? Because just because you're using Git doesn't mean your stuff is safe. It's not backed up, right? It's not versioned. You have to tell it, hey, version me, right? Yeah. And so this next command is going to basically be your indicator to Git to tell them, okay, remember this moment in time. we want to remember it, right? Because again, you can write 1,000 lines of code, and unless you commit your changes into your repo, it's not going to remember. So if you lose that file before you commit, then bad things can happen. So command number 7 is going to be git commit. Learn how to spell commit, because I can never spell commit.
You leave off an M or add an extra T?
I add an extra T. So learn how to spell commit, because there's committed that does have the 2 M's and the 2 T's.
True. Yeah.
Right? So it's git commit 1T -M, and then you're going to put your message. Now here, if you're using Jira, a little pro tip, if you will, from the experts here, this is where you're going to want to include your Jira work item ID key.
Yeah, for most integrations, not only Jira, but Jira is probably one of the more common ones. If you put your ticket ID or your work item ID or whatever your issue tool is calling it these days, in the commit message, that's what the integration will trigger off of, or one of the things the integration will trigger off of.
But again, don't forget to commit, and don't forget to add a message, because and don't forget to add a meaningful message too, because you could
meaningful message. Yes. Don't just do 3 dots.
or the word message.
Never do the word message. Yes. Also, these for the most part, messages stay around forever. You can go back and modify messages, but most people won't do it. So leave a meaningful message, and also a message that you're not going to be held accountable for in the future. If someone digs through the history and finds out
subpoenas your code,
subpoenas your code, that has happened to me at a number of different companies where the corporation's being subpoenaed, and I have to produce versions of code from specific dates to include the comments. And if your comment is fix the effing done whatever bug, that is going to be next to your name if you gave the right name when you did the git config.
Right. So be nice to treat yourself and mess up step number 1. So it's harder to tell who you are.
There's also a lot of tools that you could be running to create things like SVDs or release notes that would include comments. So you got to be careful when you're writing comments, and what might be funny today will be a lawsuit in the future.
Potentially. We live in a very litigious society. All right, the next one is something that I don't use a whole lot, but I would recommend you learn how to read it as well. That's going to be git log, and which is going to show you the commit history, which again, as Sean just talked about, could come up from time to time. Now, a little pro tip: if you use git log -- one line -- grab, dash graph dash decorate, it's going to give you a nice view. Because trust me, the log files, sometimes you can tell that software is written by an engineer who really has never taken an art class before. They're not the prettiest in the
So
world.
yeah,
And so,
if you're doing a lot with Git log and you're going as far as telling it to decorate it and all that, you're probably better off using something like a Git Kraken or a source tree or a tower. There's quite a few of these add-on GUIs to Git that will even give you a better
representation.
yeah, thank you of the file tree.
Yep. All right. Next one. This is going to come and help you and hopefully help you figure out what's going on with your world. And I would actually use this item, this next command that we're going to do, number 9, in conjunction with number 5 when we're talking about Git status. And so that's going to be Git diff. This is going to show you unstaged changes between your working directory and then the last commit.
Yeah, let's show you everything that's staged or unstaged.
Yeah, which then again, you want to get more intimate and familiar with what does it mean when something's staged, what does it mean when something's unstaged, what does it mean against your last commit, right? And what does it mean the stuff that you've worked on since all those elements. So the diff is going to help you again try to figure out what in the world has changed. Because I don't know about you, Sean, but I've been in that situation where I've rewritten my code like 30 times in an hour.
Yeah, well, when I end up using Git diff is because I'm jumping between repositories. It's a same repository but different clones, and I don't remember which window matched which clone. I do a Git diff to determine what was I doing in this. It may have been an hour or a day since I was last in that window, and I'll do this to kind of level set what was I doing and where did I leave off.
Right. Regain a little bit of sanity. Because again, it's so easy to get lost when you're just looking at black and white text.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get a whole lot to go off of here in this command line. So it's very easy to get lost.
Now, if you've been there a year or so, you've probably customized your environment to get rid of some of these, just black on white on black text.
I didn't even know you can do that, but apparently that's one of the first thing I'm gonna go do next.
Yeah, that's all very customizable. So I typically, if I'm at a customer site long enough, I have all my terminals configured to tell me what host name I'm on, and the prompt will tell me what directory I'm in and if it's a Git repo or not. And if it's a Git repo, it'll tell me what branch I'm set to. And so it's all right there on the command line. Sometimes that takes up a lot of real estate on your command line, depending on what the branch is named. I've seen some customers have rules for their branch names or naming conventions that are fairly long. Not only is the Jira ticket in there, but the purpose of the branch, the team that owns that particular branch, and maybe even the feature that they're working on. And that could be your prompt is now taking up 2 lines on your terminal.
Yeah. All right. This next set of 4 commands, I'm going to say I use them quite more. Other than the commit, I would use them quite more than everything else we've talked about.
Yeah.
And the first one's going to be git branch. And this one's going to be, it's a 2-for-1 special. You can just type in git branch to get a list of all your branches, or you can use the same command plus the name of a branch to create a new branch. So it's a retrieval and a creator all at the same time.
All the same one. Yeah. So, and that kind of flows right into number 11, which is your git checkout. So this basically makes the whatever branch that so git checkout branch name makes the branch name your current branch. So it moves you into that branch. Now, this also has a twofer. You can give an additional switch to create the branch if it doesn't already exist.
Yeah.
So there's two ways to do the same thing.
Yeah. So you would do a git checkout -b and then the branch, because if you just did the git branch, command number 10, you can create branches. Cool. You can be the Oprah of branches, right? But really, it's a two-step process because you not only want to create the branch, but you also want to step into the branch. And I think newbies kind of struggle with that part too, right? Because since it's, again, the command line and Git is not a very visual thing, you're like, wait, I made a branch. I thought it was done, right?
Yeah. But
Or
if you
you're
don't
trying
do
to
the
check out the
next step,
branch,
yeah.
or you have to check out the branch to move to it, but you haven't created it, or you created it, but you're not doing, like, it just gets all kind of hard. So the little shortcut would be git checkout -b, and then the branch name is going to do both. You're going to be able
Yes.
to create it and jump
And
into
move
it.
you into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's many times I see someone create the branch and then start doing other coding, assuming that they were already moved into the branch. And then you have to kind of walk them through, okay, how do you move your changes over to the new branch?
Yeah. Now
Which
these
also
next two,
is probably not one of the commands we're talking about.
I wonder how many commands there are. These next two commands, though, these are not for the faint of heart. These
True.
next two commands are very serious. You really need to kind of know what you're doing. I think everything we've talked up to this point, you can maybe mess it around. You can kind of play around with it. Not too many rules, not too many implications. But when we start doing a git merge with our branch, then you're taking two pieces of code ish. I'll put ish at the end,
You're
and you're
taking
making them
two
into one.
commands, merging them into one. Yeah.
Yep.
And there's you got to be careful. We haven't talked about, so if you haven't done command 15, which we haven't talked about yet, then if you messed up the merge, there's ways to back out of it. In fact, there's ways of backing out of it, but it becomes more difficult once you do number 15.
Yeah, which spoilers.
Yeah.
Spoilers. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a like so we can get you off 15. But yeah, so git merging is going to take two. Now, this tends to happen through a pull request as well, right? You don't normally go
usually. So yeah, these commands are pretty much talking about how you would use Git without an enterprise Git solution, on top of this. So most of our view, well, I don't know if I'm going to make that assumption or not, but a lot of our viewers will probably be working in an enterprise environment where you have, Bitbucket, GitHub, or GitLab, and this would be a merge request, a pull request. For some reason, they all call them slightly different, but they're pretty much the same thing. And that's when you're basically asking permission to do a merge, and it depends on which two branches you're trying to merge from and to, on whether or not one of these enterprise solution is going to enforce certain rules on you, whether you do things like squashes or no squashes or fast forward merges, which we won't get into in this particular.
Yeah, those get. Make sure, let us know in the comment section if you guys would like to see some advanced commands, because those are definitely a little bit more sophisticated.
I think we're definitely going to have to dive into, if we're doing an episode a week, we're going to run out of the top 15 easy commands or entry level commands.
The hard ones, the super hard ones.
Yeah.
All right, the next one, I think I've had to change my underwear after doing this one, mainly because it's like very similar to the squashing and the fast forwarding, right? Like a lot can happen in the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
And again, because Git is not a very visual thing, unless you have something like Git Kraken or source tree, something that's a little bit more visual, you can screw things up fairly quickly. So Git rebase and then the branch, it moves or rewrites your commits from one branch to another.
Yes.
Used for a cleaner history. And this is some dangerous things if you don't know what you're doing.
And Git rebase is a very overloaded command. It does a lot of different things depending on the switches that you give it. But the easiest way to conceptualize this is it's going to pick your changes up from your previous commit to whatever you have in your branch now, and it's going to move that to a different branch. And so it's basically rebasing. So if you think of your last commit as your base, it's going to take that and trim it from the current branch and drop it on the other branch that you reference. And it does a lot more than that, but that's the most simplistic way I can explain it.
Yeah.
So release team. DevOps Tool Specialist. We provide professional services and software reselling around the leading software DevOps tools like Atlassian, GitLab, GitHub, JFrog, and others. To talk with us about DevOps, here's our contact information. Please call 866-887-0489 or via email at info@releaseteam.com.
Yeah. All right. And then the last two, we're going to go with Git pull, which I think this is usually inverse from like those older like Subversion. I think in Subversion you would check out to do the pull, right? Back in the day?
Yeah, not necessarily, but yeah, checking out would get you the most recent. So unlike, so I don't know how much in depth I want to get in here, but Subversion was a per file version control tool.
Yeah.
Git is a per repo version
Right.
tool. So everything's getting versioned at the same time. Even if you only changed one file, when you do a commit, you're getting a whole copy of your entire repository. So doing a pull grabs all the changes on the
remote repo.
upstream, the remote repository, and pulls it down to your local repository. There's multiple commands that will do this. Fetch is another one, but pull basically does a fetch, plus other things. But typically, you want to just do a pull instead of doing a fetch.
Yeah. And then finally, when you're done with everything, you cross your T's, or you're ready to cross your T's and dot your I's.
Mm-hmm.
You do a Git push.
Yeah. So Git push is where you're sharing your local changes with the rest of your development group. So this is where you're pushing up to your Bitbucket or your GitHub, GitLab. So at this point, you've released your code into the wild, and
now somebody's going to do a pull.
Yeah, and somebody else will do a pull to get your changes.
Yeah.
You know.
And yeah, let us know, because in a future episode, maybe we can do top 5 tips on how to use Git the best, because the last thing you want to be doing, a little spoiler for a future episode, is, start making changes to code without getting the latest. I don't know how many times. Maybe that sometimes you want to do that, sometimes you don't.
Sometimes you do. If you're making a bug fix to a previous version, then yeah. But these days, especially in DevOps, you want to fail forward. You always want to be working on the trunk. We used to call the main branch the trunk in some version control tools, and that's what trunk-based development is all about. And more often than not, you're working on a feature branch that is, the latest code, and you're just continuing down that path. And then some other group will do, a sync merge or something up to,
Yeah, I guess it really just depends on where do you want to troubleshoot, right? You're either troubleshooting by getting the latest and then figuring out your changes, or you're troubleshooting once you've made your changes and going, oh crap, somebody else is working on something similar.
Yeah. So there's two parts of that. You always want to be troubleshooting in your own repo. You don't want to be troubleshooting after you push your changes up. Like, okay, I pushed my changes up, but now the build broke. And so, no, you don't want to do that. You don't want to be the guy who broke the build, or breaks everyone else's build once they all do pulls. You want to be the guy that, okay, you did all your changes on your own branch. You do a pull just before you do a push to make sure you have the latest code, troubleshoot there, and then do a push. Because if things break because somebody else did something that doesn't work with your code, you get to fix it and verify that you're not the one that's going to be breaking things.
And there you go, folks. 15 very useful Git commands that are going to help you be a little bit more effective and get you going in the right direction.
Yeah, this will get most of what you need to do in Git. These 15 covers it.
Yeah, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you drop a like, because we're going to be dropping future videos, giving you even more commands and even more stories from the trenches of Sean's battle days.
All right, bye everyone.